do you ever have the feeling that you're improving in English, that you're seeing progress, that you're in it to win it, and you decide to watch something, a movie, a TV show, and you don't understand anything? Here are probably the mistakes you're making. I'm gonna explain them and go step by step on how to watch so that you can enjoy your favorite content and not feel like you're wasting your time, but rather learning English. The first thing you want to do before jumping into watching anything is re-watching. So the concept is that you watch first the show, the movie in your own language. Maybe it's a movie that you already know, that you love, that you find fun to rewatch, and then you rewatch it in English. You can try with English subtitles. We will go to that later, but rewatching is basically the benefit of it is basically that you already know the plot, the characters. You already know what's gonna happen. So you can focus on English, on training your ear, the different accents. You know how language accompanies intonation and pronunciation, so you can relax because you already know what's gonna happen, and you can focus on really training your listening comprehension. So that's great practice, and I recommend doing that with something that you love and that is fun for you, and so that you wouldn't mind to rewatch maybe 2 times. So that's between an exercise and really having fun. So I think it's a great intersection to enjoy an afternoon. And step number two is subtitles. So bear with me. I have seen lots of people when they start watching content in English that they put subtitles in their own language because it's easier. I understand that it's more comfortable to read in your own language, but here is the thing. When you're doing that, it's extremely difficult because your brain is working in two languages. So it's listening in one and reading in another language. Now, you can become really good at doing this. What's probably going to happen is that then you don't listen, you just read. But you can become really good at doing this. The thing is that it's an ability we're not too interested in. We don't need to develop this idea of listening in one language and reading in another at the same time. It's not an ability that really interests us. It's not an ability that's going to push us forward. So I would skip that step altogether and go directly to listening in English with English subtitles. If this is too difficult for you, again, rewatch with English subtitles. So combine technique number one with number two and rewatch something that's fun for you, now in English with English subtitles. And you will notice that sometimes what they say is not exactly what appears on the subtitles, and this is exactly the exercise that you want to do. But you should be reading in English and listening in English, and that is a this is work that we're interested in. This is an ability that will push us forward in our process of learning English as a foreign language. So, um, watching in English, English subtitles. So before we jump into step number three, which is watch original content we have not watched before, I want to make a point that it's important that if you have one actor, one actress that you particularly like because you understand what they're saying, because they speak slowly, or a YouTuber that you say, okay, I understand what they're saying. When they speak, I get it. Stick with them. Watch everything they have. Obsess with them. Before changing to somebody new, obsess with them. Just go and watch all of their movies because that's going to give you a lot of really productive practice. If it's not an actor, maybe it's an accent that you decide, okay, look, Marvel accent, that's very clear to me. I really understand when they speak. So I'm gonna go for that. In Marvel, they usually standardize their accent so everybody can understand it. This can be good. So if you're a Marvel fan, so go for that. I'm just saying, stick with what you understand. That's gonna give you lots and lots of practice. So let's move to number three, to step number three, and that is watch original content that you haven't watched before. Of course, English subtitles and then and in English, right? So, what should you watch? Yes, accents. So people with accents that you know and that you understand. And second, I would recommend going for series if you're a series person, because and rather than movies. And I'm going to explain this real quick. So in movies, what usually happens is that producers, the director, and the people who create the movies have 1 hour and a half or 2 hours where they have to pack everything they have. They have to pack it all, so dialogues have to be the most efficient ones. So that's gonna be a bit more difficult to get because there is not gonna be any kind of repetition and they want to speak efficiently. When you watch series, on the other hand, there is usually a little bit more help. So before every episode, there tends to be a previously on section, and they try to be a bit more repetitive so that you can watch the series and maybe do the dishes or whatever you do, and you can still follow. So they tend to have a slower pace. They tend to be more approachable for everybody. So I recommend starting with series, and again, stick with actors that you understand and stick with accents that you can follow. And the very last step, the last rung in our ladder, is of course watching original content in English without subtitles. Now, mind you, this is not a step that you just arrive at and stay there. This is gonna be dependent on the speaker, the language, well, not the language, but the accent and the speed. Yep. So you're gonna find some YouTubers, some TED Talks, super approachable, super understandable, and some others you're gonna find extremely difficult. And it's not like a plateau where everything is has the same value. And this is just gonna happen. So it's not a reason to get frustrated. It's good to know that you might be at the level of understanding somebody without subtitles for some people, and some people not. And like if you are not very familiar with a Scottish accent, you will find that way more difficult. um, and so this is totally normal and not a reason to get frustrated. And I think this is good to hear, to know that okay, not all the Englishes are the same and are as easy, right? So it's still a work in progress, and eventually you will be able to understand everybody, but if not, mind you that some native speakers of English might also not understand Scottish English, as an example. Finally, it might so happen that you're good at listening, and maybe you are the kind of person who can read and understand English and manage very well, and when it comes to speaking, you just freeze. This might happen. Go watch this video. Oh, here, this video where I explain why this might happen and how to overcome this situation of not being able to express yourself in English. That was everything. Bye.